Skin color in video games. Is a character's skin color just a cosmetic difference? After thousands of hours of gaming, Nisse would say yeah, but also no. Starting this conversation, skin color as a joke. South Park's character creation has a slider. The bottom is white, the top is black, and the darker you go, the higher the game's difficulty gets. This clever difficulty slider gets reactions out of Twitch streamers. But what about skin color as a storytelling tool? Grand Theft Auto San Andreas forces you to play as a black man. This is not the choice most players would have made. But when Rockstar puts you in the Tims of CJ, you get to see what it's like to live on Grove Street from the inside, where the game's themes of Christianity and brotherhood are contrasted with the gangbangers' work-like approach to crime. And when the game finally lets you leave the starting city, you as the player understand completely why CJ decided to move out of Grove Street in the first place. This is why you end up liking CJ. For the story to at all work, it needs CJ and his friends. So CJ provides commentary on skin color in video games because he's not actually black, he's CJ, because the good-ass story has made us connect with the humanity underneath his skin. In the face of a real character like CJ, it's understandable why some people have strong reactions to token diversity. Darkest Dungeon is a hard roguelike in which a bunch of crooks and mercenaries team up to defeat a Lovecraftian old god. The skin and clothes of the occultist character implies he's journeyed here from a different part of the world. The leper has had his body transfigured by his horrible disease and chooses to hide his skin behind a mask. The Arbalist is some generic medieval crossbow woman whose design is so common that it pulls attention to her very uncommon dark skin. You can't help but think, why is her design both so unique and so uninspired? This is most likely what made the developers think that they could do a better job, because later a free update was released called the Musketeer, a clone character who outright replaces the Arbalist, but visually fits the setting a lot better. But what if we could make the Arbalist design more interesting instead of just replacing her? Give her a visual redesign that suggests she's from a faraway land, and then rename her to something that inspires the imagination, like Huntress. Suddenly her rare skin color complements her unique character, and the tokenness that some people might feel disappears because the Huntress has become authentic to the game's world. Just like with the Huntress, many games have transcended our limited view on skin color and created something beyond diversity. The Elder Scrolls series hits you with multiple races of humans and elves to create your character from. Would you like to experience racism in Morrowind firsthand, where the Dark Elf inhabitants greets your Khajiit self as vermin or escaped slave? Or would you prefer to play Skyrim as a Nord warrior because your northern breed gives you increased skill with axes? It may seem trivial, but when a game sees your skin color, it can validate your life inside the world. So what about games without skin color? Halo might be the best game for discussing skin color because in the real Halo games, Master Chief's skin is never revealed, which means you can imagine what you need to connect with Master Chief. The person inside the suit could just be you, or it could be Eddie Murphy, or Arnold Schwarzenegger, or he could just be a ghost in a shell. Because in the games, the remains of the human inside the suit is just referenced to as a cyborg space soldier, someone badass but ultimately disposable in war. But once the war is over, Master Chief surprisingly survives, and it all ends with him connecting to the one person he's most like, Cortana, a sentient AI, which ends up being a really effective love story about two humans who connect because of their shared inhumanity, as they were made to be tools in war. In the face of all this, why would you even make your character human? In Mechanarium, you play as a sad robot. In Ori, you play as a magical woodland creature. In Rayman, you play as... well, you play as something. Ocarina of Time might look like a J.R.R. Tolkien-style fantasy world, but then you meet the Gerudo, the Zora, the Gorons, and you realize this is a magical world with all sorts of creatures living in it, not just human. This gets even more interesting in the sequel, Majora's Mask, in which the ancient fallen kingdom of Ikana is still haunted by the soldiers that died fighting over it. These characters literally don't have skin, so are they human? Or are they simply the spirit of humanity that remained after the soldier was slain? This is why so many settings employ ghosts and dead people, because it's a bit like an uncomplicated human being. So why put humans in video games? The reason you play as a human is that you might relate to them. For this reason, I think Darkest Dungeon did something really interesting by letting you swap out each character's palette like a Smash Brothers costume. Maybe you feel that the pale highwayman fits better into the setting, or maybe you prefer a darker one because it tells a more interesting story. It comes down to what you relate more to. Fallout New Vegas presents the classic United States society inside the NCR, ripe with prejudice against both humans and mutants. Contrasted with this, Caesar has no use for race in his society. So when Caesar's legion conquers a tribal people, Caesar forces them to intermarry, to erase racial boundary lines. Maybe if you aren't white in real life, like the heads of the NCR, Caesar's raceless state might actually appeal to you more. But what if you could explore all this outside the context of humanity, playing as an Inhuman? At the end of BioShock 1, you have to transform yourself into one of the Big Daddies, an altered human who's been permanently sealed inside a big diving suit and had their vocal cords destroyed. The Big Daddies represent the entire fall of Rapture as a city, but the Big Daddies themselves are very very effectively dehumanized. And after playing an entire game where you hunt after and kill these things for their sick-ass loot, suddenly having to play as one yourself and protect your little sister ends up being a very effectful moment. We as the player got this new perspective on the people that we were fighting because the story dared to do something completely unexpected. For as long as Fallout has been a game series, there's been fan-made mods in which you can play as a mutant and witness firsthand how characters in the Fallout world might react to a ghoul, even if it is peaceful and sentient. Video games are an amazing form of art because you yourself can actually experience your character's story firsthand. You're not watching an actor do these things, you yourself are making them happen. Considering all of this, it's very understandable there's a big appetite for fresh story takes and new ideas. And I Nisse think that's great and I would love to see more of that. But as any traditional painter will tell you, shape appears when light is contrasted by dark. So let's round out this conversation with some good examples of bad diversity. Diversity backlash. One example is Battlefield, which put cyborg women soldiers on the front lines of World War II. For a series that's previously made quite a few attempts at historical accuracy, especially for the grimmest fucking wars in human history, it wasn't so well received. If this series had some silliness and camp like the Call of Duty Zombie storyline, it would probably have worked a lot better. Overwatch. Overwatch's character designs have previously caught some attention because they are, well, every single one of them are stereotype. And not all of them are racial stereotypes, but some of them definitely are. I mean, take one look at Reaper and tell me this guy doesn't listen to Linkin Park. Apex Legends. Bangalore is the white noise of modern video game characters. The same thing actually goes for a lot of the Apex characters, except for Octane from the Octane and Stimpy show. Saints Row. In 2021, Volition announced they were going to do a reboot of their very excellent Saints Row series. Controversy was immediately sparked when the game turned out to contain a lot of that what do the kids think is cool these days type diversity. So the people who care about politics spent their whole day inside, as if they had any other plans, making posts online about why this multi-million-dollar corporate project that they don't actually have any interest in playing was either good or bad. And this turned from silly to outright funny when the game came out and turned out to be fucking bad. This meant everyone involved loses. Anybody who defended the game now looks like a corporate shill. Anybody who attacked the game now lost time on something they were never going to end up playing anyway. Anybody who actually spent money on this game had to file for a refund. Everybody who worked in the game gets associated with an inferior reboot. And lastly, it confirms that giant corporations will use shallow political messages to try and peddle more of their shit products. Like we needed another reminder. I think we have everything we need here to make a good summary. Skin color and our skin in general can be an amazing tool to explore different perspectives inside a story. But when you write a story based off of how you think the story should look, what comes out is often very half-hearted because it's not honest to the story in the way that it wants to tell itself. This is exactly why I say skin color and not diversity. Skin color is objective and exists inside every story to some extent. Diversity is very subjective and doesn't really exist in the world of the story. And I think the driving engine behind this entire conversation is just us looking to be validated, which won't come from a big corporation whose only interest is making money, because validation comes from inside you, when you remind yourself that you matter, and that the way that characters in media look has no effect on your value as a person, because that is something you decide. So the best way forward might be just to let go of this conversation and instead support and create new ideas, because ultimately that's what this conversation leads to anyway. Subscribe as more videos are yet to come, and click here for the Best of Nisse playlist for more right now. None of my videos are monetized, so if you'd like to support me, there's a Patreon. Speaking of which, Forge, mwah, Awan, mwah, Harry, Pumba, Omger, Egg, I love you boys, and thank you for watching.